having me here for my first talk as an official member, since I just joined today. This is my second time here, and so I just moved here from New York area, and I recently joined my job. It's third week here, so I didn't have much time to prepare, unfortunately. But I didn't want to skip a meeting today, and I didn't have a speech, and I was like, what am I gonna do? But as I was walking on my way home from work to the library to pick up books, I just got an idea for my speech, and it's something that has been on my mind for a while, a problem that I was trying to solve for myself, and hopefully this is a problem that all of us, well, not hopefully that all of us deal with, but probably something that we all have to deal with in today's time and age where we are oversaturated with information. And as I was listening to previous speakers, there seems to be a thread that connects all those speeches, for me at least, because we're talking about the brain, and then we're talking about the choice, and then we're talking about how we're one way or another about as far as political parties and tribalism. And so this speech kind of follows on that in that same vein where in my mind, in my personal life, the problem I'm trying to solve is a problem of systems, where I want to build systems for me where my choice will be limited, which will in turn help me to be to make the choices that I make more successful and not be worn out by the fatigue of willpower, as they say. I don't know how familiar you are with psychological literature, but it's something that people talk about is where if you have to make too many choices in a day, you are worn out by the time you make fifth or sixth, by the time the seventh comes and you have to choose between eating, a sugar cookie or apple, you will choose the sugar cookie, right? So you're prone to make bad decisions, but because you don't have systems in place that will guide you to lead the right decisions. Anyway, so a little bit of a meandering entrance to this speech. Hopefully you forgive me, but I'm gonna follow this system here, which actually I found as soon as I sat down here, I was trying to think of the speech I had in my mind. And I looked at it, I was like, wow, I guess I can just follow this content, this speech that I have outlined here to sort of have more of a structure to it. So going back to the beginning of how I got this idea by going to the library to check out the books, the system that I had in mind is to limit the amount of information I'm consuming and consume it in a better way that'll make me more productive, right? So recently I realized that I consume so much information, but it's from different sources, and none of it is very conclusive, where I cannot say that, okay, now I know everything about this topic, and I can go out and get up and have a speech and educate somebody about this and have some sort of authority on that topic. Because I read a blog here, a post here, a conversation here, and none of it felt meaty enough, So I decided to look up some books on different topics. And as I was making a choice between looking them up on Amazon, obviously, where you have reviews and people say, I was thinking of getting ready to press the buy button, and then I realized that, I'm just gonna buy these books like I have some other books, and I'm just gonna lay there, I'm gonna open them and read a few pages or a chapter maybe, and still be in the same boat where it was before, meaning that I'm not gonna have a conclusive feeling of conclusive knowledge and authority to myself, where I will have enough of a competence and confidence to get up and conclusively speak on that topic. So the system that I had in mind for myself to put which will make me finish those books is to check them out from the library instead. Why? Because the library has a built-in deadline of when you have to return those books by, which hopefully will help me to get through those books knowing that I have to return them by this certain amount of time, get through them and be done with them and return them, and then be able to have a conclusive knowledge about some particular topic in mind. So the two books that I brought with me today is one of them is The Mind of the Strategist by The Art of Japanese Business. This is a management consultant from 80s and 90s when the way Japanese were doing their business was coming to America and was becoming popular. Actually, a movie that I recently saw, which I recommend to everybody, is called Gung Ho, where from the 80s, where the guy from Michigan goes to Japan to invite them to come in and save their factory. But the reason why I chose this particular book is because I wanted a better approach to problem solving. And management consultants famously are good at that, where they can come in and look at the problem and break it down step by step and have a sort of a formula where you'll go and just apply it to any kind of particular problem without having expertise in the field. I can just come in and say, oh, ask the right questions where I'll break it down enough where I'll be able to go and have some sort of an insight that I can recommend to the people that hired me, right? So that's one book, and that's the reason why I chose to check it out. The other book that was, it's called The Political Mind, Why You Can't Understand 21st Century American Politics with an 18th Century Brain. And that also connects to the speeches that we heard earlier about paradox of choice and the whole, consciousness and how the brain is built, and how basically the brain that we have is something that evolved in a world that had very little different incentives for survival, very little choice. It didn't have enough information to choose. Now, because we're swimming in information and it's too much, the problem we deal with is different in the sense that I'm explaining it, meaning you have to limit the choices that you are surrounding with. So even though it might seem like more is better to choose from, it's actually sometimes helpful to have less of choices to choose from, because that will make you make a better selection. And this actually, the topic was, I got interested in the topic, which is relative also to Lawrence's speech, by when I came here for the first time, right, the last meeting you guys had here before New Year's, where one of the guys got up and was talking about the Better Angels, which is a non-profit that has its essential tenet as dividing the ending the divide between the political parties and bringing people from two different sides into a conversation where they can agree on something. So, so that's my speech. Those are the two books I brought, and hopefully once I read them, I'll be better knowledgeable about these particular topics, and maybe I'll give a speech on one or two of them in the next meeting. So thank you for your time.